website with another vendor, how important it is for you to put your own work on the website, because it assists you in claiming ownership of that, and your website is a connection or an extension of your store. So you want to be showing things on your website that you're showing in your store. Now, having said that, some of you may have dabbled in doing some photography with arrangements. It can be a little bit of a challenge.
So when designing for photography, there's a few things you need to keep in mind. The first, of course, is the design itself. The rest is just all the other stuff that sort of makes the design look great, okay?
Good morning. This is Loran Atwill with Flower Shop Network, and we're here at the Great Lakes Floral Expo in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I'm with Mr. Robbin Yelverton, and he has just conducted a class that Flower Shop Network has sponsored for designing for the camera. Robbin, can you tell us a little bit about some of the things you talked about in your class?
Absolutely. First of all, many people love the designs they create. They like the way it looks. They're standing there at their design bench feeling inspired by the flowers, and then they think, you know, hey, I really need to take a picture of this so that we can put it on our website and then hopefully have customers buy this arrangement. However, 9 times out of 10, the image that's created by the camera is not what we expect it to be. It's usually not very well at all. And a lot of things that you need to consider when doing arrangements for photography. First of all, anything that is confusing, the materials here, because it's a very lightweight material, it doesn't have a lot of weight to it in the photograph. Lines can be very confusing. They take away from the arrangement. Things that most people don't really think about when they're making a design really come into play on the website. We're dealing with images that are normally only going to be seen in about a 3 or 4 inch at the largest format. So everything that you see in that arrangement has to be compacted down into a small picture. So the more details, the more materials going on, then the more likely that the picture itself is going to be less than stellar. So thin it down, tone it down, remove a lot of the material. The other thing to remember too is anything of a dark nature in a photograph is going to end up appearing as a hole or a void in the design. So having some dark green foliage may look very artistic in real life, but in the photograph you're not going to get the same effect. A lot of times what we'll do is maybe use one leaf and then light it in such a way that you get some of the surface quality of the material showing, but at the same time you're not creating just a flat, empty void that disappears to the camera. The lines that we have in here, while very artistic, really do not photograph well. They become very confusing. The dark flowers back here, you may not even be able to see on this video that I'm seeing here standing. It's a beautiful eggplant-colored stock, but in the photograph, it's not there. And the thing that we tend to forget about when we're designing for the website, everything in that photograph has a value, a dollar value. Your clients are looking at those photos and they're wondering why that image is an arrangement that is $100 or $150 because they can't see all of the flowers there. So always make sure that the product that you're showing is going to be visible for the client and that they get what they're paying for. One of the other things that we tend to forget about with arrangements is that when they're looking at those photos, they're looking at a container, an arrangement, and in this case, more material at the top. When in actuality, what they're most interested in and what they're most willing to pay for is this third right here. They're really not interested in buying the container. They're really not interested in this up here as far as value, dollar value. So try to bring this down, expand this a little bit more, reduce the amount of this being seen. Sometimes all it takes is a simple tilting of the design. You don't have to change the arrangement itself. Now, by doing that, you've changed the proportions of the design in the image and created a much more pleasing design for website use. The background, of course, very, very important. Anything, in fact, in the class I made a comment that you wouldn't put an arrangement in front of the shelves of Design Master paint cans, because that in and of itself is going to totally take away from anything that the arrangement has going on. So a simple, clean, in this case it's a flannel fabric. Of course, you would want to iron out any wrinkles so that there's nothing there to distract from the design itself. Typically a really good color to go with, while here we're using somewhat of a vanilla color. A dove gray is great because it's one of the few flowers, as was pointed out in the class, one of the few colors that flowers do not come in. So if you are going to do any after photography editing, taking out that color from the image is not going to be a problem because it's not probably going to be in your arrangement itself. For lighting purposes, something as simple as a hardware clamp-on bulb that you can get at any store like Lowe's or Home Depot's. A nice big reflector on it, and then in my case, I actually take used aisle runner. When we go to clean up a church, we have to take it out of there anyway. So I'll take pieces of used aisle runner and cover the front here so that it takes that light and diffuses it so it's a lot softer to the image and doesn't create such harsh shadows. Also, the bulbs that you use, it's really good to use a full spectrum color type bulb. That way the colors in the flowers read more true. In my case, I tend to use a lot of the compact fluorescent. They're the ones that look like a little spiral. You can usually buy them off the shelf, 100-watt bulbs. They do great. Buy 4 or 6 of these and arrange them, a couple on either side and a couple above, angled down into the arrangement so that if it does cast any shadows, the shadows are on the tabletop and not on the wall back behind to create more confusion. So it's really, really easy, and it's not that expensive. Most cameras today, just a simple point and shoot type camera of at least 5 or more megapixels will create an image that is good enough for web work. You're not blowing these up to be portraits on a wall. You're creating 3 and 4 inch size pictures. So they don't have to be gigantic, but they do need to have a clear, clean resolution in the photo. It's always good to make sure that it's one that has an orifice at the bottom that can be used to screw onto a tripod, because that's the next thing that's really important about creating designs that do very well for a website. No matter how calm we think we are, we're not calm enough to hold a camera still so that you can make a clear photo. So, and the other point too, when this is sitting on a tripod, if you are working on the arrangement and you're tweaking things, the point of vision that that camera has does not change because it's on a tripod. However, if you're just holding it, every time you move the camera, it sees a different portion of the design. So if you're trying to cover up a hole in the arrangement by placing something in there, coming back to it on the camera that's not on a tripod is going to be really, really difficult. So having that on a tripod is extremely important. The other thing that a lot of the new point and shoots will do will allow you to set it for the type of bulb that you're using, whether or not it's a fluorescent bulb, an incandescent bulb, daylight. So you can control the quality of the image that you're producing that way a lot better too. So just a few points, a couple of ideas and thoughts on how to have better pictures. When it really gets down to it, the most important thing that you can do is create an image that gets the client to actually click the buy button when you are looking at the website, because in reality, that's what we're trying to do, is create an image that represents your work and sells flowers.
Thank you, Robin. You did a fantastic job with the show, and we appreciate getting to work with you.
My pleasure.
We're here at the Michigan Floral Great Lakes Expo. See you next year.